Peace and light, y'all. It is the goddess Neith of the Blackest Truth, and today is the much anticipated video, Bennu Project review. I am finally bringing the Bennu Project review to you. I've talked about it and discussed it. I told you all at one point it had literally brought tears to my eyes. So today I will be discussing why I have enjoyed it so much. To anyone who is new to the channel, please by all means subscribe right now. Look down below. Be also sure to like the bell so you can get all the notifications. Head on over to the Patreon account and become a patron. You will start getting different videos of me if you are a patron on the Patreon account. I'll be uploading to Facebook and YouTube, obviously, as always. However, my Patreon account holders will get an extra bonus added to the package. So be sure to do that on this video. I've kickstarted it. And let's just go ahead and get into it. On the back, there's like a little brief intro, and I'll go ahead and read it to you all. It says, young Azubuike is a survivor. Countless generations have passed since the fracture and subsequent collapse of the Merowian Republic. Yet remnants of their culture and technology continue to persist on various worlds that have been conquered by their enemies. Subjugated and oppressed, the descendants of this once great republic know they must change the direction of their fate or face extinction. On a dangerous run to scavenge supplies from a remote excavation site located in an isolated section of the Mesa ruins, Azubuike and his friends encounter a unique piece of technology left behind by their ancestors. And I'm going to go ahead and get into the review because I can't give y'all all of it. So let me just give you some personal things. What did I personally enjoy about the Bennu Project? The first thing that just immediately stuck out to me was it was very African. The names all had meanings. So Azubuike is actually an Igbo name, and it means the past is your strength and your back is your strength. So, you know, right off the bat, it had different indigenous names, and then there was a lot of history. Like in the prologue, it had a woman, Sovereign Roha Tahark, and she was over Fort Roha, and she had a group of people that all followed her leadership. And Taharka actually was the 25th dynasty leader. That was the last black Kemetic pharaoh in the time of the Kemetic stages, and that was the 25th dynasty ruler. So when you saw Taharka, it was just kind of like, oh, he's picking up on a lot of our history right now. We're referred to as Merowians, or I just have to say Merowians because it sounds a little bit more easy for me. But you really say it Merowe, but Merowians in the book are what we're referred to as. It's kind of like Africans. And these people that have come against the Republic or come against us are known as Azalians, or what we know as Europeans. So the Azalians are the Europeans in the book. The Merowians are the Africans. And the Merowians are basically in this part of, they have this amazing land, all of this vast technology, and they have to basically put themselves in a position to fight for their descendants. Else the Azalians are going to gain more traction on them because they've already destroyed Roha Taharka. They've already destroyed that civilization. So now Azubuike and his team and his people having one more opportunity to kind of save the race. So that was one thing I liked. There was a lot of history. You could tell that two sources of this book were the destruction of black civilization and civilization of barbarism. And I'll leave those two sources below. So if anybody's not heard of those books, you can check those out. Another piece of kind of like history that he had in there, or just kind of like something that you kind of got to be well versed on some of this stuff, is this dude named Lieutenant Winch, who is an Azalian. Lieutenant Winch is very kind of like, he's very pompous. He does a lot of talking. He despises Merowians. He kind of is over the camp where they interrogate, terrorize, infiltrate the Merowians. So anytime anybody's caught, he loves to have like a major interrogation and torture the people in order to get more information about the Merowians. So this dude, Lieutenant Winch, is just a really bad dude. And in the book, his name is Winch. Well, if the very first thing that you are acquainted with or you're introduced to when you start learning about this life is the Willie Lynch letters. That was probably one of the very, very first things that I read. And anybody who you might be trying to introduce into this world of knowledge or an enlightenment, the Willie Lynch letters is a really, really good start. It's a short book, and then it's easy to comprehend. So this dude's name is Winch, W for Willie, Lynch. He took the L off, Winch. So you can definitely see this. And the way he treats the Merowians is quite obvious that he has that racism, white supremacy all up in him. He does very well in the book of interrogating, but at the end, we are victorious. Repetitious throughout the entire book. One thing that I love is unity, unity, unity. They always like thanking the ancestors. It's much like Wakanda, honestly, y'all. And that's why I put in the last video, Wakanda to Bennu. Much of the book reminded me of Wakanda, and it was funny because I started reading this book last fall. So when I saw Black Panther a couple of weeks back, it was like, wow, like that's so crazy. Like, like I'm just getting more visuals of the book just now watching the movie. So the book Bennu Project has nothing to do with Black Panther. Just nevertheless, it is a great visual. It's a very sophisticated world. They actually have these suits that they wear. These suits have all types of artificial intelligence. One of the artificial intelligence is Ashe, A-S-E. And Ashe basically warns you of all different types of things around you. And obviously we know Ashe to be so forth, so it may be, go on. Kind of like some would consider it like the African Amen. But Ashe is something that we say within our community. So when someone says, you know, I want really great for you, or, you know, we're gonna overcome white supremacy and we're gonna do what we have to do to get our people in the place that we need to be, everyone says Ashe, Ashe, Ashe. Oh, so the artificial intelligence in this sophisticated uniform is Ashe, and then it also has a Oya or Orisha. So it's so many things that he placed in the book, and they also had a cool little watches that does the holographic scans of everything around you. So if someone wants to communicate with you and they're telling you to locate to get to this place immediately, he has all of those features in the book. So that was really cool. Now the name, some of you might be asking, the Bennu, what does Bennu actually mean? Bennu is our original form of the phoenix. If anybody knows about the bird, the phoenix, it says to have this ability to have this cyclical life. It is born and born and born, and it dies and it recreates from its ashes. Well, the phoenix is actually a whitewashed version. It's Greek mythology. Greek mythology was nothing but the Europeans that had came into Africa and had been taught and had came back to Greece and Europe and had started to give it different names. Like Medusa has all of these snakes in her head, but in all honesty, Medusa was originally African and she had dreadlocks. So Europeans didn't draw her as dreadlocks, they drew it as snakes. So a lot of Greek mythology are nothing but African people, African Orisha, African gods, and different things of that nature. And Bennu is another whitewash principle. So the Bennu is the original African form of the bird, and it is said to have a reborn principle throughout its entire life. So it can recreate itself. It is reborn from its ashes, and it is also associated with the sun. Obviously, as we as African people are all associated with the sun because it gives us energy. So that's another great thing about the book. So I think, you know, one of the perks is if you buy this book from maybe like, you know, your nephew, your niece, if you even purchase this book for yourself, it's not only a great adventure that you're going to go on. It's very like, even one video I told y'all, this book had me crying. It had me crying because of the possibilities. And then it also had me crying because I just thought it was so magnificent how he had put all of it together and it went so well. So I think one of the perks of this book is if you purchase it, you'll also be learning a lot about your history at the same time. You know, and even when I talked to him, I was like, you know, asking about certain instruments like, is this melanin or what is this? Because now I'm starting to get curious about some of these things that I've read and learned in the book. And one of the really, really cool features, the last thing that I think is really cool, is in the Azalean kind of like quarter banks in their housing camps. You can kind of think about it. Two people are at war. Each person is going to have their own housing that their troops report to. So in the Azalean camp base, they had this major warehouse that all of the Merowians who were disguising themselves as spooks that sat in a corner, because they had just like in the movie of Black Panther, how you had the Wakandans who were really, they pulled their lip down and they were from Wakanda, but they were opposing as regular Americans. They had the same thing in the book. So you had these Merowians that were actually working on behalf of the Azalians, but it was only to get an idea of their camp and then to sneak Merowians or anybody that was fleeing the Azalians out. So that's actually how Azubuike broke free with the elder. I don't want to tell you all too much of it because you have to read it yourself. But in that part, there was like this huge warehouse, right? And the warehouse had all of these African Merowian. I keep saying African, but it's Merowian. But we're the Merowian, so that's why I'm saying African. It had all of these artifacts, all of these great things. And Azubuike was looking around, and when he finally linked up with his elder, he asked him, was all of that our history? And his elder was explaining, like, yes, all of this stuff around is what our ancestors owned and different things of that nature. And when I ended up talking to Tyrone, I remember saying, like, it reminded me of the Vatican. I was like, is that what it is? Is that storehouse the Vatican City? Because many of us don't know that underneath the Vatican in Europe, where the Da Vinci Code was filmed and where you typically have that scene of Parliament and it's kind of like this circle area, underneath the Vatican is about a mile plus long of African history that we haven't really been exposed to. So this major storehouse that they had of all of these Merowian artifacts, in all actuality, was our stolen history, just like in the Vatican. And I thought that was so cool that he put that in a book. I'm just kind of like, man, like, how long did you study to do this? Like, it's what I'm thinking, like, how long did it take you to put this together, Tyrone? Don't think that Tyrone Givens is like Tyrone that Erykah Badu talking about, y'all. This is not that kind of Tyrone. This is not that kind of brother. This book right here, it ain't even that type. And then I'll end off right here. The world was so sophisticated. They have to get into this mountain. This mountain is what their ancestors have left to them. When the Azalians had came in initially and had raided the Republic, they knew that they had to leave some form of information back for their descendants. So when they came, they would be able to pick up the work and carry it out, right? So there's this mountain that has the world of Fort Roja within it, called Mount Roja. So in order to even approach it, you have to have melanin, like literally. If you approach the mountain and you have no form of melanin in your skin, the mountain will not open to you. Now, prior to it opening for anyone, Azubuike has to engage it and actually has to show that he is sovereign Roja Taharka, who's actually kind of like used his body as kind of like an incarnate for a little bit. She's using his body to speak to the mountain to gain everybody access. But the only way you can make it into a mountain is to be scanned and show that you have melanin. So the sophisticated properties that Tyrone put in the book is very, very apparent. It's different things like if we actually discipline ourselves and innovated our world and innovated the things that we use on a daily basis, these are the things that we will start to be using. Like they have aircrafts that go above and fly over the forest, and they also have the ability to be invisible. Because you would think if obviously you're going in a war, you're trying to hover over, if you're trying to be like a drone in someone's area, you don't want to be noticed. You want to be disguised. So there's so many sophisticated principles that show you this is an evolved world of who we are. And I thought that that was really cool. There's a part 2 book that I have not quite read yet. I will be doing a second video over that after I've read it. But this is the Bennu Project. This is the first part. I would love for you all to read this. I'm going to be starting a challenge soon. Some people have already read it. I've actually had a group of people in the city, Houston. We were all saying that we wanted to do a book club. I encourage you all, wherever you are, to go ahead and do a book club. I'm going to start a challenge. But go ahead and check out the Bennu Project and tell me what you all think. I love you all. Subscribe to The Blackest Truth. Subscribe on Patreon. Become a patron so you can get all of those extra videos. And I'll see you all next week. Peace.